Hello and welcome in this video of the internal structure of the Earth. In this video we are going to understand about the three important layers of the Earth, which are the core, mantle and the crust. In this video we will have a deep understanding about these three layers of the Earth. So let's begin our discussion. Now, if we try to analyze the internal structure of the Earth, we have not seen it. No man has actually seen the internal structure of the Earth. We can only imagine it, because the internal structure of the Earth is so hotter that it can burn any type of metal into liquid. So far, the human have entered up to 15 kilometer depth of the Earth. We have not entered into the core or in the mantle area. We have entered up to the 15 kilometer only, because beyond the 15 kilometer the temperature increases so high that it can melt even a metal, and it can burn even the human skeleton. So it is impossible to enter into the Earth, to go into the mantle area or into the crust area. Now everybody know that the radius of the Earth is 6371 kilometer, because out of the 6371 kilometer we have reached only 15 kilometer of the depth of the Earth. So the temperature inside the Earth increases by 1 degree centigrade per 32 meter. That means if we enter 32 meter depth of the Earth, 1 degree centigrade temperature increases. Billions of the years ago, our Earth was warmer like our Sun, because inside the solar system, our Earth is a planet of the Sun, which keep on its own revolution on the Sun. But with the passage of time, the temperature of the Earth cooled down. But the internal layer of the Earth is the core. As I have recently said, that the core is the internal layer of the Earth, and the internal layer of the Earth, that is the core, is extremely warmer. Around 4500 degrees centigrade is the temperature inside the core. So in the core the temperature remains always around 4500 degrees centigrade, which is very hotter. Now, how we know about the internal structure of the Earth? So far we have already discussed that there are three layers, that is the core, mantle and the crust. But if we cannot enter into the internal structure of the Earth, how we know about it? So we know about the volcanic waves. Whenever any kind of earthquake happens, so the earthquake waves, we can actually know about the internal structure of the Earth. So there are mainly three kind of earthquake waves, which are the primary wave, the secondary wave and the longitudinal waves. As we know that the seismograph is actually the machine which measures the earthquake waves, and they tell about the internal structure by tracking the path of these waves. So the primary wave can travel both in the liquid and in the solid. The secondary wave can travel only in the liquid area, and the longitudinal wave can travel on the surface of the Earth. So there are three main waves by which we know about the internal structure of the Earth. These are the primary, secondary and the longitudinal waves. Now, if we come to the internal structure of the Earth, as I have recently said that there are main three internal structure of the Earth, that is the crust, mantle and the core. The crust is the uppermost layer of the Earth, which starts from at the top layer of the Earth till 100 kilometer. The mantle is composed of the crust is composed of the silicon and the aluminium, and that is why it is called the Cr. And the mantle is composed of the silicon and the magnesium, and that is why it is called Sima. And the core is composed of the nickel and the iron, and that is why it is called the Nephi. So the internal structure of the Earth is divided into crust, mantle and the core. The crust is the uppermost layer of the earth, which starts from the uppermost layer of the earth up to the surface of the earth up to 100 kilometer. So after the 100 kilometer of the earth, of the internal structure of the earth, the mantle area starts. So the mantle starts from 100 kilometer up to 2900 kilometer inside the structure of the earth, inside the earth. And the core starts after the mantle. The core starts from 2900 kilometer up to 6371 kilometer. So the crust is composed of the Sial, it is called the silicon and aluminium. The mantle is composed of silicon and the magnesium, and that is why it is called the Sima. And the core is composed of nickel and iron, and that is why it is called the Nife. Now let's try to understand the core, mantle and the crust in a detailed manner. So as I have recently said about the crust, that it is the uppermost layer of the earth, and that is why it is called the crust. It is the layer which supports life on the earth. It is the thinnest layer of all the layer. It is extended up to the 100 kilometer. Now it is also vary according to continental area and the oceanic area. Now what is oceanic area and the continental area? Actually the oceanic area is those areas which are covered by the ocean, and the continental area means it is covered by the plain and the mountain. So the continental area is much wider than the oceanic area. The oceanic crust is thinner, while the continental crust is much thicker. The oceanic crust is thinner about 5 km compared to the continental crust about 100 km. Now this crust can be divided into two parts, the upper crust and the lower crust. The upper crust is made of silicon and aluminium, and it is for this reason that it is called the Sial. And the lower crust is made of silicon and aluminium and the magnesium, and that is why it is called the Sima. So there are the two parts. Now there is a discontinuity between the hydrosphere and the crust, and that is called the Conard discontinuity. So I hope that the core is clear for everyone. So let's move towards the mantle. Now just below the crust there is mantle. As the crust was in the solid form and it was the most thinnest form, the mantle is in liquid form. It is extended from 100 kilometer up to 2900 kilometer below the crust. So this layer is in liquid state on which the tectonic plate keep on floating. So in the you already know that that our earth is composed of 17 major and the minor plates, and these plates keep on floating on the mantle, and the mantle is in liquid state. So on the mantle the 17 plates of the earth keep on floating. And another thing, the mantle is also the source of the magma. So whenever the magma appears on the earth, it comes from the mantle. Now the uppermost layer of the mantle is called the asthenosphere, and after asthenosphere it is called the lithosphere. So the asthenosphere is the uppermost layer of the mantle, and from the asthenosphere the magma comes out. Now the uppermost part of the mantle and the entire crust continues the lithosphere. Now so the lithosphere means the entire crust and the mantle. The asthenosphere is extended from 100 to 200 kilometer, and it is highly sticky. It forms the region of upper mantle which lies just below the lithosphere. The asthenosphere is the main source of the magma, as I have recently said, and it is the layer over which the lithosphere plates and the continental plates move. The discontinuity between the upper mantle and the lower mantle is called the Repetti discontinuity. The proportion of the mantle which is just below the lithosphere and asthenosphere above the core is called the mesosphere. So in the mantle, the upper area, the mantle is divided into mainly two parts. The uppermost part is called the asthenosphere and the lower part is called the mesosphere. So I hope that the mantle part is clear for everyone. So as I have recently said that the mantle part is in liquid form, and it is on the mantle part that the 17 major and the minor plates keep on floating. So it is the mantle part which keep in the circulation. The mantle part is a structure of cold and the hot currents which keep on movement, and because of the movement of the liquid of the mantle, the tectonic plate float over there. The tectonic plate keep on moving on the mantle because of the circulation of the hot and cold currents in the mantle. As everybody knows that the internal structure of the earth is very hotter, and as you go up to the earth, it will become cold. So the liquid of the mantle keep on the cold and the hot currents. So whenever the liquid of the mantle go to the core area of the earth, it becomes hotter, and after becoming hotter, it will go to the outer area. It goes up. So after the liquid go up, it becomes cold, and after getting cold, as the cold is heavier than the hot, after becoming the cold, the liquid again goes down towards the center of the earth, and as the center of the earth is again warmer, around 4500 degrees centigrade warm, so after becoming the warm, the liquid of the mantle again goes up. So after it becomes cold, it will again become the heavier, and it will again come to the core. So that is how the movement of the liquid currents happen in the mantle area, and the plates keep on floating on the mantle. Now let's understand about core. The core is the innermost layer of the earth with a radius around 3500 km. The core is also called as the perisphere. It is mainly made of the nickel and the iron, which is very heavy metal. So because of the rotation and revolution of the earth, and during the formation of the earth, the lighter elements formed the crust. The lighter elements of the earth went at the crust because it is lighter, and it formed the uppermost layer of the earth, and the heavy metal formed the core, and the nickel and the iron are the two heavy metal, and it formed the part of the core. The central core is having a very high temperature and high pressure. Now the core can be divided into outer core and the inner core. So there are two main parts of the core, which are the outer core and the inner core. And another most important thing, between the mantle and the core, there is discontinuity. So what is the meaning of the discontinuity? As the structure of the mantle and the core is completely different, and that is why the intermediary, the line which separates the mantle and the core, is called the Gutenberg discontinuity. So the line which differentiates mantle from the core is called the Gutenberg discontinuity, and the core is most denser part of the earth. It is most denser because of the high heat and the temperature, because of the high heat and the pressure of the earth. It is called the most denser part of the earth. So now if we divide the core into two parts, it will be called the outer core and the inner core. Now the outer core is in liquid form, but it is not solid because of the intense heat and the pressure. It is also in the liquid form, but even in the liquid form, it is made of the nickel and the iron. Now if we talk about the inner core is in the solid state. The inner core is in solid state, where the amount of the iron is much higher. Around 80% of the inner core is made of the iron, and 20% is made of the nickel and some other elements. So the discontinuity which differentiates between inner core and the outer core is called the lemon discontinuity. Because you can ask me a question on what basis you have differentiated the inner core from the outer core. So as I have recently said that the outer core is made of the liquid form. Outer core is in liquid form and there is 50-50 representation of the nickel and the iron. But in the inner core, the iron content is 80% and the nickel content is around 20%. And the line, the discontinuity which differentiates from the inner core to the outer core is called the lemon discontinuity. I hope that the core is clear for everyone. Now let's talk about the discontinuity between the layers. So far we have discussed about the three important layers of the earth, that is the core, mantle and the crust, which form the internal structure of the earth. Now we are going to discuss about the 5 important discontinuities. So discontinuities means the change of the layer. That every change of the layer is marked by the discontinuity. So the discontinuity mainly differentiates one layer from the another. So the first discontinuity is called the conard discontinuity. So the conard discontinuity mainly exists between the outer and the inner crust. So the conard discontinuity is located in between the outer and the inner crust. So the next one is called the Morovicic discontinuity. The Morovicic discontinuity exists between the crust and the mantle. Third one is called the Repeti discontinuity. So the Repeti discontinuity exists between the outer and the inner mantle. And another one, that is the fourth one, discontinuity, is called the Gutenberg discontinuity. So the Gutenberg discontinuity exists between the mantle and the core. And the last one and the fifth one is called the lemon discontinuity. It exists between the outer and the inner core. So far we have discussed about these 5 discontinuities, but how to remember these 5 discontinuities? Because it is very natural that you will forget these 5 discontinuities. So how to remember these 5 discontinuities? So don't worry, we have a trick to remember these 5 discontinuities. So these are koi mujhe red gulab la do. So this is the trick, koi mujhe red gulab la do. So by koi it is called the conard discontinuity, mujhe the Morovicic discontinuity, red stands for the Repeti discontinuity, Gulab, the Gulab stands for the Gutenberg discontinuity, and Lado, it stands for the lemon discontinuity. So I hope that with this trick you would be able to remember these 5 discontinuities and you are not going to forget it even in the lifetime. So thanks for watching this video. Thank you. Thank you for being with us and watching the video. This is my email ID. If you want to ask any question, you can directly contact me on this email ID. If you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more and more updates. Thank you.